All right, so here's a little follow-up. I had a couple questions about the video where I talked about this row of dwarf coconuts and dwarf bananas. We just cut the Napier grass and we're just doing some hand weeding around these pineapples that you probably couldn't see in the last video. This will be our second year cropping pineapples in here, and then we may or may not leave them in for a follow for a third year. I'll have to decide. But keep in mind, you know, each one of these that's come up, it already fruited once and it already produced at least 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 pineapple slips per plant. So if you want to start thinking about the value of a plant, don't think about just the fruit. There's propagation material for days on these. And that's really one of my big strategies. You can see we're still weeding down the line. The guys are going down. It'll probably take them another 20-30 minutes to get through the rest of it. One of the ideas here is that this is a propagation material bed. I've got pineapples for days. I've got banana pups, which we've already harvested a few times through here. And then these dwarf Fiji coconuts are very difficult to get. And so when those nuts start forming, that's going to be another big propagation piece, high value, way more valuable than the coconut would be to consume, is what the value is to propagate. So the long-term goal, I think somebody was asking me what the long-term end goal was. Do I leave everything in? The answer is no. Either after this crop that comes up next or the following year, we're going to pull the pineapples out and we're just going to let the ground cover be what it is. So it'll be a lot less maintenance. There won't be this hand weeding. This hand weeding will probably happen like twice, maybe 3 times in the season. But what happens, because we have established Napier, which you can't see, it's all cut down, that comes up in shades and it helps to keep the weeds from really forming over it. So what they're pulling is the more sprawly stuff, the Wedelia. But after those pineapples come out, the next thing that's going to happen, as these coconuts fill in, because their canopies get really wide, what they're going to end up doing is squatting on top of the bananas. The bananas are going to come out next. That'll probably be in another maybe year or probably 2 years. Those bananas will come out. And then if I back up, you'll have these coconuts pretty tight. They're 15 feet apart. And what I'm thinking about doing long term is selling every other one out. I'll sell them as a field dug palm, which will be a high value item as well. And then I'll have my long-term dwarf Fijis at 30 feet. Once that middle one's out, I could put in something that's either gonna go up and above, like a high tall tree, or I could put something that's going to stay underneath the canopy of these dwarf Fiji coconuts. So that's how I'm thinking about the future development for this particular planting. And that's a big part of developing agroforestry systems, is seeing the past, present, and future, and working a strategy, and also being open to change. You know, some of the changes that have happened in this particular case, we had a epic hurricane this past year and it smashed all these bananas down to the ground. I had corymbias that were up here that were my emergent layer. They've all been smashed. They're resprouting, but it's going to take them a while to come up. I just thinned them out actually. So there's the old stump, and then I selected a new leader that's resprouted off of it to come up all the way through the top. But you got to be adaptive to change. And part of the thing about having a polyculture system is that it gives you options. You know, if I was just growing coconuts here, yes, there would be less maintenance, but I wouldn't get any food for a long time. I've gotten quite a few pineapples out of here. We're going to have bananas and pineapples this year. And, you know, to each their own. If this doesn't suit your needs, then that's totally fine. But that's what we're doing here. And hopefully that answered the questions we had.